This is SharkMan, what is considered by many players to be one of the worst net navies in the MegaMan TCG. And honestly, when you look at his kit and some of his cards, it's understandable why people think that. A lot of his cards take a while before you can play them on the board. And not only that, they're kind of clunky. It doesn't feel like they click that well. And overall, it just feels very meh. It lacks that oomph, that wow factor that some of the other net navies have with their kits. Some people even think that he's actually an incomplete net navi, that he actually had more cards slated for release in the 4th set, but because the game ended prematurely by the 3rd set, we just never got all his cards, and thus he is an incomplete, unfinished net navi. Objection! I, on the other hand, don't know if I really agree with that. I've taken some time to try SharkMan out. I really gave a couple of spins and I come up with all the ways I could try to make a good deck out of him. And I'm not so sure he is as incomplete as some people say. He's got the same number of cards in his kit as any other net navi. And I think really the situation here is he's just he's not as straightforward as some decks. You got to kind of play him a little bit before you really understand what his deal is. So I'm happy to say that I've come up with a build that actually works really well in using all of his cards, and so I wanted to share that with you today in this deck feature video. So if it's your first time here or you're coming back, definitely subscribe to the channel and make sure to like this video, please. And with that said, let's get right into it. This right here is SharkMan. He is like his predecessors. He's a starter deck navi. He's a vanilla. He's got 2 strength, 2 defense, 2 blast, and no effect. And he's also a blue-green net navi, so those are his default colors. And really, if you ask me what makes him shine, it's these 2 unique cards in his kit. Some of his other cards are not great, but boy oh boy are these 2 really powerful cards. Let's look at Geyser. This is his signature battle chip. It's a 5 destiny, 1 blue, 2 emblem, 3 power gauge requirement. You return any number of your resources and play to hand to make your SharkMan strength +3 for each resource return. I don't know about you, but this translates to turn 3 potential 12 damage to your opponent. That's right. That's the way I look at it. If you can get to turn 3 and you got the perfect board set up, you can whack your opponent in the face for 12 damage. And if that wasn't bad enough, you've also got Out of Water. This is a card that you can get in his starter deck as a foil, but you can also get it as a rare engrave. It's a 4 destiny, 2 power gauge, 1 emblem event. And it lets you play any number of your resources. So if you've been playing the game, you know that you can only play resources during your resource phase. That's the rule of the game. Once you're in your main phase, you can only spend resources, play battle chips, play events, or blast. However, with Out of Water, you kind of get to break the rules a little bit. That's a very unique thing to SharkMan. With Out of Water, you get to play resources during your main phase. And as you can imagine, with Geyser, that's pretty potent. You get the 12 buff, and you bounce back stuff, but you can also play Out of Water to put back stuff on your board. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the resources you bounce back. It could be any resources, so that you're not totally left vulnerable and naked after you've used the Geyser to bounce stuff back. So really potent stuff. And in my opinion, the jewels of his kit, I should say. And so I just wanted to show these up front because it contextualizes why I built the deck the way I did. So really important. In my opinion, this is the big combo we want to go for. And the deck I built really just tries to get this happening as often and as early as possible. So with that said, let's just jump into his deck. I built so real fast, there are several ways you can play SharkMan. There's an OTK deck you can definitely play. I'm not going to be covering that today, but I might make a video about it down the road. That does exist. It has been proven and it is very lethal. So I will do a video on that. That is one way you can play it. The other way you can play him is pure blue control. You can definitely do that, and he's definitely got cards that lean in that direction. But there is also the option of playing him more green, and that's the deck I'm going to be showing you today. I'm not going to jump into the green part just yet. What I want to do is show you the blue parts of the deck because that contextualizes the green side a little better. So I'm going to jump ahead and just show you some of the blue cards we're playing. We're only playing a few, but they are important, and we do need them for our Geyser plays. The first 4 blue ruses we're going to play is his net op. That's Mesa. It's a 2 destiny, 1 emblem, 3 power gauge requirement. Whenever you play another SharkMan card, you may take a card from your power gauge into hand. So like many of his cards in his kit, this is a turn 3 resource, so we need to do a bit of building up. But we definitely want to play this because it helps us with our Geyser plays. Geyser is a 2 emblem, 1 blue requirement. Having Mesa on board as a minimum will give us our live Geyser. Obviously, we want to have more resources so we can get more of a buff, but at the very minimum, Mesa helps us meet that requirement. In terms of his effect, it's tricky. It's definitely not as straightforward as something as Land Net Battler or Mr. Match or any of the other net ops. Honestly, some of those net ops, it's really just, you don't really think about it. You take the effect because it's just good, and it's nothing but good. Mesa, not so obvious, because on one hand you need power in your power gauge. On the other hand, the second you can play him, it's almost counterintuitive. You don't want to start taking power out of your power gauge, so you don't always want to use the effect, but there are times, and I will show you when those times come as you play this deck. So all that to say, he's not bad. He's just not as straightforward as some of the other net ops, and we just got to be a little more strategic in our use of him. So we play 4 of them for sure. We also play 4 Requitals. This is the other blue emblem for SharkMan. It's a 1 Destiny, 1 Emblem, 3 power gauge requirement. If you played a battle chip this turn, you can place 2 cards from hand in your power gauge. So again, helps us with our Geyser requirements. I will be honest, I'm not crazy about this card. But that being said, it does have some cool combos, which I will show as I show some other cards. So we definitely want to play that. We're also going to play 3 Shrimpy 2s. This is a virus, so the way viruses work real fast, just to kind of refresh your memory. You can have, if you play a virus, you can have multiple copies of that virus. They're not like resources or regular resources where you can only have a unique, like you can't have 2 Mesas, you can't have 2, but you can have as many Shrimpy 2s. And like viruses, when you play one, you can find all the other copies of the same virus from your deck and play them. So ideally you play Shrimpy 2 on turn 3, and if you need it, if you can get the other 2 Shrimpy 2s from your deck. And that gives us plenty of blue requirements for all the cards that we're going to see down the road as I go through the rest of the deck. You can play 4 Shrimpy 2s if you want. I feel like 3 is a sweet spot for me. Some people also prefer playing Gaia, who is a way better, what some would say is like one of the best viruses because it has this crazy cool negation. I don't like waiting until turn 4. This is a turn 3 deck for me. I don't want to wait turn 4. So I went with Shrimpy 2. You have Lark as well, which is a turn 3 virus, but I just like the power, the effect of being able to burn a power and add your Net Navi's defense to your Blast Destiny. I don't really care for Lark's discarding. That works better in the blue control version of this deck if you want to do that. I kind of just like having the luxury of getting some offense with the Shrimpy 2. You can get that too. There are situations where maybe you'll blast. You don't blast a lot in this deck, but when you do, it's maybe because you're just trying to win the game. Ideally, it's a situation where you got 5 in your power gauge, you blast for 2, and then you've got maybe 3 or 2 Shrimpy 2s that can just tack on some extra damage. So that's kind of the thinking behind that. And so, yeah, those are our blue resources. That's all we're playing. The rest is really just green. So let's get into those real fast. So green, like I said, SharkMan, I feel like his struggle is he just needs stuff to do in the first 2 turns to set up for when turn 3 comes, because that's really when he shines. But like other navies have like a bit of progression. Like there's cards and stuff you can do first couple turns. He doesn't really have that. So we just need to like think outside the box a little bit and put some stuff. And I feel like green is the best way to really do that. At least that's the style I felt was like the most powerful and the best, the one where I felt satisfied when I drew cards and opening hands and stuff. So in terms of my greens, I'm going to be playing 3. It's not over yet. It's a 1 Destiny, no power gauge requirement. And very straightforwardly, you just draw a card. That's it. So you want to just opening hand. If you see this, that's a good sign. It's a good feeling. You just put that on the board. And then if you feel like you want to just fish for stuff, maybe you're just not seeing your combo pieces soon enough, you tap into it and you draw your card. Playtime, 3 Destiny, no power gauge requirement. You discard a green card to draw 2 cards. So it's just draw power, very similar to It's Not Over Yet. We're also going to be playing playing Hooky. That's a 3 Destiny, 2 power gauge requirement. You discard 2 cards to take a card into hand from your deck, and then you shuffle your deck. So this is potent. This is just a searching engine for us. We need our Geyser. Maybe we need our Out of Water. This lets us get it so that by the time it's turn 3, we're ready to go. Discarding 2 may seem like a heavy cost, but honestly in this deck, with the draw power and the bouncing, you've got the ammo. It's really not a big deal. And if it gets you your combo pieces and lets you start smacking your opponent for 12 damage ASAP, I'm cool with that. I'll pay the price of 2 cards. There's plenty of ways to recoup that investment anyways. Next up, we're playing his other emblem card, surprisingly sharp. 1 Destiny, 2 power gauge requirement. It's if you played a battle chip this turn, you draw 2 cards. So the reality is you aren't going to be able to use this right away. This is going to be a card that comes in later. So even though it's a turn 2, it's really a card that only pays off way later on. And before I continue with the rest of the deck, I just want to show you the cool combos that kind of work with these 3 cards. So when you're playing your big Geyser play, ideally you want to have a board where you have maybe these 3, because then you can add a water and you drop these, and then you can tap into your Surprisingly Sharp to draw 2. Your 2 cards that you draw can be used to like use Requital to slide 2 into your power gauge, or really it could be any 2 cards, but it seems like that's the combo. So there are situations where you draw 2 and then you slide those 2 into your gauge with the Requital. That's kind of how that works. And of course, the beauty is with Mesa, if you were paying attention, and you should be paying attention to the cards you're putting in your power gauge, you can be very intentional about the kind of cards you're pulling out of your power gauge. So if you know you slipped in a card that you might want later down the road, Mesa lets you do that. So that's why I'm like, I don't feel like his kit's that bad. It just doesn't, it's just one of those things where you got to keep playing until it kind of clicks in your head. Oh, that's how this works. So yeah, like initially I said Requital sucks, but honestly, there are times where it really pays off. And with the ability of Mesa and Surprisingly Sharp, there is a bit of synergy there. So yeah, just wanted to pay attention to that real fast. Let's continue with the deck. We're also going to be playing 4 of his Ultra Rare, Fish at Hand. This is his Ultra Rare from Grave. It's a 5 Destiny, 1 Emblem, 4 power gauge requirement. And it's a burn 3 power to recharge an energy for each resource in play and each card in your hand. So a lot of people don't like this card. People think it's a really whack Ultra Rare. I can see why, but I, again, like to look a little past the surface and just try to see if there's something there. And I definitely think there's something with Fish at Hand. Do you need to be playing 4? Absolutely not. I'm just a bit of a crazy person, and I like to max out all the emblem cards. The reason I max out the emblem cards is, 1, it gives me more Mesa if I could tap into Mesa from time to time. And that's really when it's awesome. When you're at 4 or 5 power gauge and you've got Mesa, dropping Fish at Hand lets you take an extra card. Because almost all of your deck is trying to be 3 turns and lower, you don't necessarily need your power gauge to be at 5 or 4. So you can just fish out for cards using Mesa from your power gauge. And if you're paying attention to what you're putting there with Requital, which you should be, then you're being very intentional about the card you're getting out of your power gauge. Maybe you're getting Disruption, maybe you're getting Battle Chips, but that's kind of the cool thing. But the other thing about Fish at Hand is not only does it give us more Mesa plays, but from time to time, sometimes if you're late in the game and you've got enough draw power helping you out, you can recharge for real crazy amounts and kind of put the clock back on your opponent's side where they're the ones worried about decking out because of the amount that you're recharging. So I really think it's a good card. I don't think you need to play 4. You definitely don't even need to play it at all. But yeah, I'm playing 4 and it's working out great for me. And again, it really helps with Mesa, so that's why I'm doing it. We're also playing 3 Gender Differences. This is a 1 Destiny, 3 power gauge requirement. Note, you lose 2 energy, take a card from your discard pile into hand. So we're going to take back our Geyser or our Out of Water, whatever our combo pieces are, and just do that over and over again. I play this in pretty much every deck, so it's no surprise it's in here as well. I'm also playing 2 Uploads. It's a 4 Destiny, 2 power gauge requirement. Green, burn 2 power to take a guard from your discard pile into hand. So I like this, and some people might think, well, why aren't you playing Woodman? I just don't like Woodman. I tried it. It's turn 4. I don't necessarily like that. I want something that I can play on turn 1, turn 2. I've got a lot of late cards just because of the way his emblem cards work. So I wanted something I could drop earlier, and that's what Upload does better than Woodman. The other thing is I don't necessarily use the Upload on turn 2. I try to wait. There are scenarios where usually if it's like I have 5 in my power gauge, I just drop Upload, I burn 2, I get Geyser. Geyser's a 3 power, so I got the 3 power, and I can play it and do 9 damage. You could do that with Woodman too, but for me, it's important to have the ability to play this early on if I draw it, which I don't get with Woodman. So that's kind of thinking with that. Put these over here, and that's pretty much our resources, I believe. So let's take a quick look at the events. So I've got plenty of events. That's a big part of what makes the deck work. So let's start with 5 That's Too Easy. This is a 5 Destiny, 2 green, 3 power gauge requirement. You take any card from your deck into hand and you shuffle your deck. So as you can imagine, this is really good. This gets us our Geyser or Out of Water or combo pieces in a very straightforward fashion. So we definitely want to have that. We're also going to be playing 4 Uncommon Net Battler. This is a 3, 1 green, 2 power gauge requirement, and it lets you draw 2 cards. It's the pot of greed of the game, basically. So we're playing 4 of those. I'm also playing 2 Frozen Outs. This is a 5 Destiny, 1 green, no power gauge requirement. If you have exactly 3 cards in hand, you lose an energy to take a card from your discard pile into hand. So again, just like in the same vein as Upload and Gender Differences, this is our way of getting another Geyser from our graveyard discard pile very fast. And given the amount of hand manipulation you can do with the draw power and the discarding of this deck and the Mesa being able to put stuff back into your hand from your power gauge and Requital, it's so easy to manipulate your hand to being just exactly 3 cards. So this is very easy to pull off. I only play 2. I don't really like 3 or 4. It just feels like I would draw too many of them at once and feel kind of icky. So 2 just seems like the sweet spot for me. So That's what works best. The Out of Water, which I showed you earlier. This is one of the jewel crowns of the deck. So obviously we're going to play 4. I already explained what it does, so we'll repeat it. And then I've got these 4 as well. So I've got 2 Grave Problems. This is a 1 Destiny, 2 blue, no power gauge requirement. Its opponent takes all cards in his or her power gauge in the hand. Very disruptive. I can't tell you how satisfying it is when I put an emblem card while my Mesa's on board, and this is one of the cards I get out of my power gauge. It's such a good feeling. I'm still feeling out whether I want to try 3 or 4, but nah, 2 for now seems to be it seems to work fine for me. And some people might look at this and be like, well, wait a minute, it doesn't seem like you have enough blue resources. Like, doesn't this end up being a dead card? Honestly, not with Shrimpy 2, and with the amount of searching you're doing to get your emblem cards, because you need them anyways to play Geyser 2, I just haven't found myself in a situation where these end up being dead. Of course, it'll happen. It always does at some point, but there's plenty of workaround. There's ways to like set the board up so that it becomes lives, or I can just discard a worst case. So honestly, Shrimpy 2, viruses in general just let you kind of get away with playing a color without really playing a color. That's the kind of secret I've realized with them. Then there's also, like Father, like Son, those are my 2 other events. 4 Destiny, 2 blue, no power gauge requirement. We return up to 3 resources to their owner's hand. So again, very similar to Grave Problem. It's a disruption card. I want to just clear their board and just be able to like do whatever I want without them getting in the way. Also, sometimes it's helpful to bounce your own stuff. Maybe you just need to do that. So it's got that flexibility. And again, like Grave Problem, I don't find myself really trapped by the fact that I need too many blue resources in the deck to play these. This is just working fine. So again, that's what works for me, but you can always try out a variation and see what works best for you. Our battle chips are the last thing, last but not least. I already went through Geyser too many times in this video, but you know, so I won't go over it again, but we all know why it's awesome. And then I'm also playing 4 Tornadoes, and let me explain this one a little bit. So I did try decks where I just played 4 Geyser, and it felt like it was a little lacking, so I needed some extra battle chips. But every other battle chip I tried, I just wasn't crazy about. I tried Longsword, I tried Cannonball, I tried Mega Energy Bomb, I tried High Cannon, I tried everything, but they just weren't right. Then I got into Tornado, and here's why I like Tornado. Tornado, I could just play it on turn 1 as soon as I have a green resource. If I have it, it's not over yet, boom, I could just do cheap 4 damage. Some people think that's too negligible. They think it's petty. They don't think it's really worth having that kind of damage output. I completely disagree. Every damage counts. Some people just are really into the big swings. I'm cool with just taking you down with 1,000 cuts. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. So I like Tornado. It lets me play something right away. Not to mention, with Surprisingly Sharp, if I got that turn 2 and I can Tornado you, I can use my Surprisingly Sharp right away to start drawing cards, getting into my combo pieces, so it kind of works well with that. Also, as we already looked at just not too long ago, we've got a lot of bouncing happening, so I'm not only going to send you back all your cards in your power gauge, but I can also send you resources, which gives me plenty of ammunition to sort of buffing up the Tornado. So it really works well in that sense. And if I'm going to start burning power because of, like, I don't know, fish at hand, or maybe Mesa, I'm getting greedy with Mesa and I'm fishing cards out of my power gauge, I don't have to worry about not having power gauge requirements for this battle chip. I can just play this anytime I want. So it just works well. I tried everything else, like I said, and just this is the one that kind of stuck with me. So overall, this is kind of the deck. Like I said, there's so many ways to play SharkMan, and I think a lot of people, I think what happens is they look at his kit, they try it out a little bit, and they're like, this just isn't as fun. It just doesn't click as well. And I totally get that, because that's how I felt when I first started playing. But I gave it a lot. I gave it some patience. I really gave it an effort. Honestly, he's a really fun deck to play, and I hope that whatever you're seeing here has been kind of inspirational, giving you some hope and ideas on how you can build your SharkMan, because he's definitely good, and I don't think he's incomplete. I think you just gotta give him an extra layer of effort, because unlike some of the other net navies, he's just not as straightforward. But hey, maybe that's the point, because maybe if you want a straightforward net navi, maybe you should just play Gutsman or Fire or Torchman, or just one of those dummy decks that just, you know, what you see is what you get. I think SharkMan just requires a bit more thoughtfulness. You just need to be a little more strategic, and maybe that's just why it's a bit of a deterrent for some people. I think he's really good, and I really like this build that I've come up with. So that's all I got. I hope this video has been inspirational. I hope it gave you some ideas on your deck building, and yeah, that's it. That's the video. I will catch you on the next one. Take care for now. Bye.